Krishna Prapti ho jaha hote. Krishna Prapti ho jaha hote. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Itete Kuriya Kyo. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Itete Kuriya Kyo. Arna Kori Ho Mane Asha. Arna Kari Ho Mane Asha. Shri Guru Charane Ruti Esa Uttama Gati. Shri Guru Charane Ruti Esa Uttama Gati. Ye prasade pure sava aka. Ye prasade pure sava aka. Purana diloye jame jame prabhu se. Chakudan diloye jame jame prabhu se. Divya gyan hriday prakashita. Divya gyan hriday prakashita. Prema bhakti jate avidya vinasha jate. Prema bhakti jate avidya vinasha jate. Tere gaja harukkurita. Tere gaja harukkurita. O Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Dhanara Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Dhanara Bandhu. Lokanath Lokera Jivana. He Lokanath Lokera Jivana. Ha ha Prabhu kar daya deho more pada chaya. Ha ha Prabhu kar daya deho more pada chaya. Vede Josh Gushukti Bhuvana. Evedos Tribhuvana Aha Prabhu Korodaya Deha Muri Parataya Aha Prabhu Korodaya Deha Muri Parataya Prabhu Korodaya Deho More Parachaya Prabhu Korodaya Deho More Parachaya Ete Josu Kusutri Bhuvana Srila Prabhupada Pujita Pavana Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shunyavadi Atyacara Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivatadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivatadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Yasomati Nandana Braja Varunagara Gokula Vandana Kana Yasomati Nandana Braja Varunagara Gokula Vandana Kana Gopi Purana Dana Madana Manohara Gopi Purana Dana Madana Manohara Karya Damana Vidana Karya Damana Vidana Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa Amala Harinama Miya Vilasa Vipena Purandara Navina Nagara Bhara Sankira Jnana Sugata Vipena Purandara Navina Nagara Bhara Sankira Jnana Sugata Surakulanasana Rajaganapalana Surakulanasana Nanda Godhana Rakoala Nanda Godhana Rakoala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Hey Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundara Nanda Gopala Sundara Nanda Gopala Yasomati Nandana Braja Varunagara Gokula Vandana Kana Yasomati Nandana Braja Varunagara Gokula Vandana Kana Tata Chara Gopi Vasanara Ramuna Tata Chara Gopi Vasanara Aurasara Sikha Kripa Maya Rasarasika Kripamaya Hare Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Sabara Hare Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Sabara Koko Divino Rajra Koko Divino Rajra Maya Hare Rama Maya Vilasa Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Hare Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Sabara Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Radha 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 Radhe Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, Jaya Gauranika, परमहंस परिवराज का आचार्य श्रोतर श्री सिमरे श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिवराज का आचार्य श्रोतर श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत गौरी वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। दूरमनवेती धाम की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। यामुना माई की जय। गंगा माई की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। निताय गो प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बो समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Gauranga.
Shri Shri Radhesham ki jai. So I'm reading from Prabhupada Nectar, Personal Glimpses, and this part is called Prabhupada and his photo. Srila Prabhupada liked the photo of himself on the back of the first Hare Krishna happening album. In that photo, his hair seems to be standing on end, and his visage is grave, penetrating, mystical. He said of that photo, a Swami should look philosophical. A disciple named Dhanesha told Prabhupada that he wanted a picture of him with his mridanga for a second record album, Vandeham. Prabhupada said, I am not a professional musician that I should have to pose with a mridanga. He suggested instead more formal pictures like those of his own Guru Maharaj. The Guru is in his picture. There is no difference between me and my picture, he wrote in a letter. Therefore we should honor and keep pictures in that spirit. If we throw pictures this way and that way, that is an offense. The name and the picture are as good as the picture in the spiritual world. In the material world, either picture or person, everything is illusion. And this one is on dancing. You can see his motion on films. Don't expect to see much big, athletic jumping up and down. He would mostly start from the waist and shoulders, moving up and down in rhythm with kirtan, and then jump. Dancing for Prabhupada always meant upraised arms and extended fingers, like the depictions of Gaura and Nitai. That was how he introduced chanting and dancing in his room at 22nd on 26th 2nd Avenue, leading us around in a circle, showing how you put your left foot to the right side and then your right foot to the left side, and how you sway back and forth with the arms always upraised. Kirtanananda called it the Swami step. Once in Chicago, he admonished boys who were twisting disco style. Emphatically from the Vyasasana, he raised his arms. He did it once, and when the dancers did not heed, he did it again, like this. It would come upon him at different memorable times, walking, dancing with ecstatic kirtan at Rathayatras in London and Australia, or in temple rooms packed with devotees, or before thousands at outdoor pandals in India, suddenly creating waves of excitement, all devotees rising with him. He would dance and we would dance. He danced and we are dancing. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So I'd like to welcome back Mother Gaur Bhakti from India, pilgrimage to India. Mother Sukhada will be giving the morning class today. And here are the devotees who have assisted their Guru in dressing the deities today. Shri Shri Radhe Shyam were dressed by Raghunath Prabhu, Chota Radhe Shyam by Mother Sarala, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Ramanya Prabhu, Chota Krishna Balaram by Mother Rasa Manjari, Shri Shri Gaurnitai by Mother Radha Katha, Chota Gaurnitai, Mother Leela, and the Gurus and Lord Nishingadev by Vilasini Mataji.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Gopi Chanda Vallabha Givaradhari Jai Gopi Chanda Vallabha Givaradhari Yasharanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yasharanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Sivanachari Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishwavad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Acharya Sati Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishwavad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya Acharya Sati Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Ki. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Se Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Mayapurdam Ki. Jamuna Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Jamuna Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Tulsi Devi Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Majjhila, text 168, talks between the Lord and Ramananda Roy. Lavanyamrita Daraya Taruparisnan Nijalaja Shama Patasati Paridan Lavanyamrita Daraya Taruparisnan Nijalata Shama Patasati Paridan Lavanyamrita Daraya Taruparisnan Nijalata Shama Patasati Paridan Nijalaja Shama Patasati Paridan Lavanyamrita Taruparisnan Nijaraja Shama Pata Sati Paridam. Lavanyamritada Charuparisnam. Nijaraja Shama Pata Sati Paridam. Any ladies? Lavanyamritadaya Taruparisnam. So the word for word, Lavanya Amritadaya, in the shower of the nectar of bodily luster. Tadupadi, over and above that. Snam, the bath. Nija, Om. Laja, shyness. Sham, blackish. Pata, silk. Sati, garments. Paridana, wearing. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. After her midday bath, Radharani takes another bath in the nectar of bodily luster, and she puts on the garment of shyness, which is exactly like a black silk sari. Over and above the other baths, the bath taken in the afternoon is taken in the nectar of full beauty. This nectar represents the personal qualities of beauty and luster. Thus, there are 3 baths in different kinds of water. Radharani then puts on 2 dresses, a lower and an upper dress. The upper dress is her attachment for Krishna, and the lower dress is her shyness. That lower portion is compared to a blackish silk garment or a bluish sari, and her upper garment is pinkish. That pink garment is her affection and attraction for Krishna. So, just a little bit of a recap, since we only read 1 verse a week from Chaitanya Charitamrita. But in this chapter, Lord Chaitanya travels to a place, Vidyanagar, on the banks of the Godavari River in the hopes of meeting Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy does come, and it explains when Lord Chaitanya sees Ramananda Roy that his mind is running towards him. But he restrains himself, he sits patiently. And when Ramananda Roy sees this sannyasi who's more effulgent than 1,000,000 suns, he goes up to him hesitatingly, but Lord Chaitanya takes Ramananda Roy, he embraces him. Very firmly he embraces him, and they both fall to the ground, and it explains that the master and the servant are like one, and they're both exhibiting all kinds of ecstatic symptoms, trembling and perspiration, and from their mouth is coming the words Krishna, but in a very faltering manner. So it's an incredible display, and the ritualistic brahmanas are there. They're looking on the whole scene very critically, because Ramananda Roy is considered a Sudra. Of course, that's one of the things Lord Chaitanya came to show, is that Brahman is by qualification, not by any birthright. So he met with Ramananda Roy, and then later on is when they began when he asked Ramananda Roy to please speak. And actually Lord Chaitanya described Ramananda Roy as a cloud of devotional service who was empowered to distribute the water all over the sea. And Ramananda Roy, after Lord Chaitanya asked him to speak, he spoke on detachment, he spoke on knowledge mixed with devotional service, on spontaneous loving service, and he went on to explain unalloyed, pure devotional service, love of Godhead, serving the Lord with pure servitude, serving in fraternity, serving in parental affection, and of course serving in conjugal love, and how it could be developed in all different ways. And he explained the gopis' love for Krishna and the very highest perfection of love that Radharani displays. And he spoke of Krishna. Krishna's body is made of Satchidananda, three potencies. First potency is Ladini, or the potency or aspect of pleasure or bliss. And the second potency is Sandini, the potency of eternal existence. And the third, Samvit, of knowledge or cognizance. And it's the potency called Ladini that gives Krishna so much pleasure. And through this pleasure potency, Krishna tastes all spiritual pleasure. The essential part of the pleasure potency is love of Godhead called Mahabhava or ecstasy. And that ecstasy is represented by Srimati Radharani. And her only desire is to please Krishna and to serve Krishna. Everything she does, that's what it's for. So, she's given full facility because of that. Her mind is always Vrindavan, and her desire is always to serve Krishna. So the verse today and the preceding verses have to do with the consciousness of Radharani, which is compared to bathing. And the first shower that Radharani takes is the shower of compassion. And there's one story that describes, there's so many stories that describe Radharani's compassion, but one of them is the story of Radharani and Lalita. They are walking through Braj, and they hear, it starts with, there's some Brajavasi boys, and they're playing with the monkeys, they're teasing the monkeys, and then they see a jackal, so they start teasing the jackal, and they pick up stones, they start throwing at the jackal, having a great time, and the jackal starts howling and running, and he jumps into a hole, and then the boys, go to the hole, and, like boys sometimes do, they start a fire all around the hole, so actually the jackal, he's trapped inside the hole, he can't get out, so he's howling and crying, and Srimati Radharani walking with Lalita, she's disturbed. She's like, what's going on? In Braj, no one's supposed to suffer. Everyone's supposed to be happy in service. Lalita, can you go find out, what's happening here? So Lalita, she goes over, she sees what's going on, she sends the boys home, she puts out the fire, and she takes out the jackal, who's very bedraggled at that point. And she brings the jackal to Srimati Radharani. And Radharani, the jackal bows at her feet. So she touches the jackal, she blesses the jackal, and it's said that she awards that jackal, because he was so surrendered, an eternal body as a gopi in the spiritual world. So just another point at how merciful Srimati Radharani is and how indebted she is to any kind of service. This little story serves as a parable also. It said the jackal is described as the living entity that's trapped in this material world, and the whole material existence and the fire surrounding the whole samsara davana lalita loka, that we're burning in this fire of material existence. And the jackal, the howling of the jackal is compared to the living entity chanting purely for help. This jackal is really chanting purely for help. And Lalita as a spiritual master who comes and rescues that, that devotee and brings him to Radharani, brings him to Krishna where he's liberated. So that's one story of Radharani's compassion. There's another beautiful story of Radharani's compassion of Shamananda, when she blesses Shamananda. And the story begins that his original name is Duki, and explains that he is born as a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. And as he grows up, he wants to serve more intensely, more sincerely. So he goes to Vrindavan, where he can study under Srila Jiva Goswami. And he's learning so much under Srila Jiva Goswami. And he says to Srila Jiva Goswami, I want to do some more important service. I want to do something especially for Radharani. So Srila Jiva Goswami tells him, well, you go to the kunj, you go to Radharani's kunj, and you just stay there, and you just sweep that kunj every day. So that's what he does. He goes to the kunj, And every day he's chanting, he's dancing, he's sweeping the kund in complete ecstasy. And one day when he's sweeping, or one evening, he finds a golden ankle bracelet. And he picks it up, it has the little bells on it. And as soon as he touches it, he's like overcome with complete ecstasy. And in meantime, elsewhere, Radharani realizes that she lost her bracelet somewhere, so she sends Lalita to go to find the bracelet. So Lalita travels over. She sees Duki, who was initiated as Krishnadas, who was initiated by Hridaya Chaitanya. So she goes to him and says, my Saki, she lost her ankle bracelet, and we're wondering if you found it. He goes, well, yes, actually, here it is. I found it, And so I want you to give it to me so I can return it to her. And he said, this is a very valuable bracelet, and I can't just give it to anybody. She has to come here. And Lalita's like, well, she can't come here. She's from a very glorious family. And, the sun isn't even up yet. So, she's unable to come. And Krishnadas is like, well, I have to have her come. I just can't give this to anybody. And then I can see if it fits her, and I'll give it to her. So Lalita's thinking, there's something special going on here. So she returns, and she meets, she sees Radha. She tells Srimati Radharani what's going on. Srimati Radharani returns, and Krishnadas shows her the bracelet, and Radharani extends her hand and asks for the bracelet. And then Radharani, Krishnadas says, well, you look like you're from a very great family. You look like you're from an incredibly glorious family. But why were you here at night? Why do you come here in the middle of the night? And Radharani's like, what? She goes, I come here every night to perform my pastimes. This is my kund. So then Krishnadas becomes completely ecstatic. He goes, you're Nikunj Vaishwari, And so then Krishnadas bows at her feet, and she takes her ankle bracelet, she touches to the dust of Braj, and she touches to Krishnadas's head, and he becomes completely ecstatic. And she says to him, I am so grateful for the service you've been doing to my kund that I'm going to bless you. She says, my name is Sham, and you've given me so much bliss by serving me in this way, so much ananda, that your name is Shamananda. So that's another example of the beautiful and glorious blessings that Radharani can give. And we are so fortunate to have Radhasham here, because we get their blessings every single day. And she's so merciful all the time. Prabhupada says that, Radharani, she's Hari Priya. She's very, very dear to the Lord. And she's more merciful than Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says, like in Vrindavan, more than chanting Hare Krishna, at least initially, the devotees are chanting Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. So we're fortunate to have such daily association. And then there's the next bath that Radharani takes is a shower in the nectar of youth. And that shower gives Radharani unimpeded beauty, unimpeded energy to serve to the fullest extent. So she has a capacity to express her desires fully. In the Ujjwala Nilamani, Rupa Goswami describes Radha's body as an evolution of spiritual pleasure. I really like that. An evolution of spiritual pleasure, that her body is decorated with flowers, fragrant aromas, and is complete with transcendental love for Krishna. Her beauty consists of the highest artistry. She's decorated with ornaments of spiritual ecstasy, of trembling, tears, petrification, perspiration, choking, cessation of all bodily functions due to transcendental pleasure, stumbling, high blood pressure, and madness. Those are all symptoms of Radharani's beauty and her ecstasy. There was one story when Radharani blesses Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das had been reading descriptions of Radharani, and one of the descriptions of Radharani describes her her hair is like the hood of a poisonous serpent. And when Raghunatha reads this, he becomes a little disturbed. He doesn't like that idea, that Radharani's hair described like the hood of a poisonous serpent. So he's just having a bit of a problem with that. So one day he's walking along in Vrindavan toward the evening, and he sees a girl sitting on a swing, and he sees the gopis, they're swinging this girl, very beautiful scene. And he's looking at her dark ebony hair, very beautiful. And then he looks and he's like, oh my God, it's a snake. That's a poisonous snake crawling up this girl's back. And she's clueless. She has no idea that that's what it is. So he screams, look out, he's running, there's a poisonous snake crawling up your back. And as soon as he gets there, the girls, they just start laughing and giggling and and then all of a sudden everybody disappears. So Raghunatha realizes, wow, that was Srimati Radharani and the gopis, and he became a believer that actually the hair did look like the hood of a poisonous snake. And after, then Radharani takes another bath. This bath is in nectar of bodily luster. And there's a nice story that illustrates this. Radharani and the gopis, they sometimes become very envious of Radha's, Radha becomes envious of Krishna's flute. They're like, Krishna's always playing his flute, and he's always getting the nectar of Krishna's lips, and it's not fair that there's such a monopoly in this way, we should be able to get some of it too. So Radharani has a plan that she's going to go at night, and she's going to steal this flute, and that way, she'll get more of the nectar from Krishna's lips instead of the flute. So she goes off, she's got her plan, she knows that Krishna always keeps the belt tucked into his dhoti, and she's just going to sneak in, and she's going to steal it. But there's only one problem. And that problem is that Radharani's effulgence is so brilliant that she can't hide herself. And everyone can see her, everyone can see what she's doing. So she pretty much just has to give up that idea, give up that plan. It's just not going to work. So that's an example of the beautiful bodily luster of Srimati Radharani. And there's another shower that Radharani, or actually this is another shower. She puts on the garment of shyness, which is her black silk sari. And there's a story of Radharani's shyness and how Krishna protects her chastity. In this story, Radharani is really lamenting because she's getting a bad reputation. Everyone's talking about her in the village, this girl, and Radharani's always seeking her, and she's already married, and what's going on. And so she's a very chaste girl, Radharani, and she's feeling a lot of uncomfortableness, over this whole thing. So she goes to Krishna and she said, Krishna, it's really not fair. It's like everybody loves you, everybody serves you, but when I love you and I serve you, I get a bad reputation for it, and I just can't take it anymore. I just want to give up this body. I can't take this situation anymore of always being criticized. So Krishna says, don't worry about a thing, Radha. I've got a plan, and my plan is so perfect that when this plan is executed, not only are you going to be touted as the most chaste woman in Vrindavan, the people who criticize you will lose some of their reputation for chastity. So Radharani is, willing to give it a try. And the way the plan goes is that Krishna develops an incredible fever. And Mother Yashoda is beside herself, It's such a high fever. And she calls the doctor. The doctor just doesn't know what to do. He tries everything, it doesn't work. She calls another doctor, same thing. He can't cure it. So Mother Yashoda, she hears of a doctor that's just come to Vrindavan. This doctor is very effulgent, round face, lotus eyes. You get the picture. And he claims that he can cure anything. So Mother Yashoda quickly brings the doctor to the side of Krishna. And the doctor examines Krishna and says, This is very serious, but there is something that can be done. But I'm going to need something special for me to be able to execute this plan. So Mother said, what is it, whatever it is. And the doctor explains that he needs the chastest lady in Vrindavan. And, well, how are we going to determine that? So the doctor says, this is what you have to do. We'll have to take we'll make a bridge of the patient's hair. And so they lop off a bunch of hair from the patient, and they make a bridge from that hair. And he says then, what happens is we'll have to call all the ladies from Vrindavan, and they're going to need to carry a pot with 1,000 holes over this bridge. And in the middle of Jamuna, they'll pick up some water, and they'll bring it back. And once I get this water, this special water, then I'll be able to make the medicine, and I'll be able to totally serve Krishna. So they call the ladies from Vrindavan, and one after another, they're having, a difficult time passing this test. First of all, the bridge of hair is very delicate. So, first of all, it's Katila. Jatila's sure that her daughter, Katila, she'll be able to pass the test. So Jatila's all ready. She knows she has a good reputation in this regard. She steps onto the bridge of hair, and she falls into the river at the laughing of many, different devotees in the area. And so then Katila thinks, okay, my mom will be able to. So Jatila goes and, she tries the same thing. She steps proudly under the bridge, and splash, she falls into the water. So, and Mother Yashoda, she thinks it's not going to happen. Just see, we're never going to find this person. She's crying, she's despairing. And so the doctor, she goes, how are we going to find the most chaste lady? We've already been through so many, and what are we going to do? So the doctor says, wait a second. And he starts drawing in the sand, different lines, making different calculations. He's like, let me see here. Well, it appears, is there a woman named Radha in this area? I'm like, yes. Well, bring that woman. Let's see if this may be the woman we're looking for. So Radharani comes very eager to do anything to save her dear Krishna. And she approaches the Jamuna very humbly. She's saying prayers to Krishna as she approaches. And she steps very delicately onto the bridge, and it supports her. And she walks step by step across the bridge. And when she reaches the middle of the bridge and she starts to bend down, she sees Krishna's face reflected in the river. So that's a very encouraging sign. She starts to lose some of her fear. She bends down and she fills the pot with water, and she sees Krishna's hands expand into 1,000 fingers, and they plug up all the holes in the pot. So at that point she's able to bring the pot. She walks carefully across the hair bridge. She delivers the water, and the doctor mixes the water with some paste and gives it to Krishna, and voila, miraculously, Krishna is revived. And Mother Yashoda is so happy that she wants to have a celebration, and she has lots of butter, she has lots of milk, so she takes that butter and she takes that milk, and she first offers it to Radha. Radha says no. And then she offers the milk and the butter to Krishna. Krishna accepts it. And then Mother Yashoda takes the remnants of Krishna and she offers that to Radha. And then, of course, Radha is very happy to take Krishna's remnants. And the story has a very happy ending with Krishna surviving and Radha's reputation being completely saved. In fact, all the villagers are talking, how is it this is the chastest woman in Vrindavan? But they're convinced this experiment that proved to be true, that was performed, saved Radharani's reputation as the most chaste woman in Vrindavan. So, okay, also Krishna, Krishna's the knower of everything. He's described as Vedaham samatitani vartamani charjana bhavishami chabutani mam tu vedana kaschana. Krishna says, as a supreme personality of Godhead, I know everything that's happened in the past, everything that's happened in the present, and everything that's going to happen in the future, but me no one knows. But actually, Krishna doesn't know everything because he self-admittedly, he doesn't know Radharani. He's bewildered by Radharani, and he wants to understand Radharani, which is the whole reason for the advent of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya comes to understand Radha. He comes as Lord Chaitanya, Radha and Krishna combined, in order to understand these special pastimes of Radharani. And again, Prabhupada describes that if you take to a special speculative process to understand Krishna, it'll take you forever. But if you just engage in Radha's service, then you'll be able to understand it in this lifetime. Prabhupada emphasizes that the teaching of Lord Chaitanya is to feel separation, not meeting. That the process of devotional service taught by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his disciplic succession is how to feel separation from Krishna. He says the more that we feel separation, the more that we can understand that we're advancing. He says, be advanced in feeling separation. Engage yourselves in the service of the Lord. He says, we can't see Krishna with our material eyes, and we can't hear Krishna with our material ears. The only way that we can understand Krishna is through the tongue. That we can understand Krishna through chanting Hare Krishna, that Krishna is present on the tongue, and we can understand Krishna by taking Krishna Prasadam. Those are the ways that we can. He says, so feel separation from Krishna, just as Radha does, as Lord Chaitanya teaches us. And engage your tongue in the service of Radharani. One day when you're mature, that you'll see Krishna face to face. So that's Srila Prabhupada's promise to us, And of course, we're constantly feeling separation from Krishna, because we feel such misery. The only time that we're really feeling the ecstasy is when we're engaging in pure devotion and service. And we go out on Sankirtan, for example, like last week in St. Augustine on Harinam. It was so ecstatic. Even though the devotees were so concerned that it's so early, there might not be so many people there. How come St. Augustine, they changed all the rules? What's going on here? Why did they do this? Or persecuting us, it's not fair. Of course, they did. It was a rule they made for all the groups that come. But actually, there was something about the morning hours, the mode of goodness, that made it more ecstatic than ever before. And to have over 100 devotees, chanting and dancing up and down St. George Street was like phenomenal. No one ever seen anything like that before. The non-devotees were like pressed up against the walls because there's so many of us, but they didn't seem to mind. They were like, whatever you guys have, we want some of it. They had their hands out for prasadam, their hands out for books. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough books, but hopefully we'll learn that for next time. But it was so much fun. They were dancing with us and jumping with us and chanting with us. So the best way to feel that connection, to reduce that separation, is to engage in Harinam Sankirtan. There is nothing that's better than that. So there's so much opportunity for us to be able to do that in this community with so many Rath Yatras. Unfortunately, the Rath Yatra today was limited because they had a rule that only 30 people could go, but there'll be many more opportunities. So one of the best ways to serve Radha, one of the best ways to serve Krishna. And I was just going to briefly touch on, we all are familiar with the qualities of Radharani, the 25 qualities of Radharani. And one of the qualities that I wanted to touch on just a bit is the quality of Radharani giving shelter to the devotees. And I touched on this one because of the devotees that are here for the seminar, the Child Protection Seminar, and how important it is to make sure that our children are protected and they're safe and that everybody's safe. Of course, there's an aspect of shelter that means, protecting from any kind of bodily harm, which is initially the Child Protection Office came into being for that reason, so that our children would be protected against abuse. And so that, that was a bit of a reactionary measure, but it came into being because of that and has grown and, is giving seminars and making sure that all schools have access to education so that our children are safe. But, just meditating on this idea of giving shelter, I was thinking how really that shelter means so much more. And that really, if we want to give real shelter to our children, there's so much more that needs to be done. And the more I thought about it, the more that I felt, wow, it's like there's so many temples all over the world, and there's so many millions of dollars being spent for temples. But how many Gurukulas do we have on our earth? How much energy is being put into our children's shelter in terms of education? After all, Srila Prabhupada called non-devotional schools slaughterhouses. And of course, many times we have no choice, but this should be something that's foremost in our minds, and it should be as important at this point in time as building temples. We have a beautiful school here that I'm working at now. We have 60 students, and there's so much facility for it to grow. In the past, Gurukulas traditionally went up to about 5th grade, and then as students get older, it gets more difficult to give them education. But now it's in place. Jai Shri Radhe of Jai Shri Radhe and Manu, the bus tour, has taken the role of principal in the middle school. She's teaching 7th grade. Next year will go up to 8th grade. The next year 9th grade. The next year 10th grade. So it's growing, but the only thing that's really holding us back is facility. And I'm just putting the word out there that I feel like if we're really going to give our children protection, this should go right along with, if not in front of, any other kind of protection. Because when children are brought up with spiritual teachings and they're brought up with, association of devotees, it will just, the preaching, the purity will grow exponentially. So this is one aspect of protection that I feel like we've neglected in a big way in our movement, and hopefully that will be rectified over time. So I think my time is up. Thank you so much for listening. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? Any corrections? Kavina Mohini.
I want to say it's beautiful stories.
Thank you.
Since you are talking about the children and engagement, the other Ekadashi, when it was Ekadashi day, I brought my daughter and her friend that had sleepover, and I was a little worried. It's early in the morning, but they actually woke me up before the alarm clock, and they were ready. Can we go to the temple? And Radhe got to do Tulsi Puja, and then they got to do some service to put pajamas and outfit that was left from the day before. So when we were leaving at 8:30 or something, they both said, "It's so much fun. We had so much fun. We want to do this again." So if we really give them more opportunities to do some service, I think that besides the academics, that I agree definitely, but also because we have facilities at the temple.
Excellent idea. Yeah, these are two girls that go to the Gurukula, so they grow up, just loving devotional service. Anyone else like to? Right, I'm on for Ruth.
In that same line of thought, I've also thought of the continuing shelter or protection of the devotees by having an engagement in ISKCON when they get out of the school, because just like it was a slaughterhouse going to the public schools, so then what about the engagement? So then, of course, Prabhupada mentioned Varnashram, and he mentioned, so I would just like to continue the same thought of how to think about protecting. They used to say cradle to the grave. I guess so it would be the samskar to samadhi, that you could have the thoughtful process of engagement from the time of conception. The school is nice. It gives them that engagement. They're fully, everybody's thinking about how to protect them. But then, as you said, now to the 10th grade, after that, okay, now that we've invested so many years and years in training, why not have the continuation of that thought as an engagement from their whole life?
And of course, that was Prabhupada's plan with Varnashram. If we had followed through with the farms, there would, there'd be so much more facilities. So we're a little behind.
There's thinking that's required.
There's thinking. Thinking, feeling.
Well, the feeling actually comes first.
Feeling, thinking.
Well, if you have the right intention in your mind, then you're given the correct intelligence on how to carry it out. So the desire is there first. We have good thinkers, but you have to have the intention to engage protect the devotees, Bhakti Vatsala.
Whoever.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, and it might be a little hard for me to formulate, but that we don't approach Krishna directly. We have the disciplic succession. The line of spiritual masters, our present spiritual master, we serve the servant of the servant. But how does we hear of approaching Srimati Radharani to approach Krishna? How does Srimati Radharani relate to the disciplic succession? Or is the spiritual master the representative of Srimati Radharani?
It's a good question. I'm not totally sure that I know the answer to that question. I know that Radharani is exceptionally merciful. It's just as exemplified by the story of the jackal, So maybe it is possible to approach her separately. Anybody else want to comment on that? Okay. All right.
Well, I was just going to add that I believe it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada does say that the spiritual master is always either a representative of Srimati Radharani or Nityananda Prabhu. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the nice class.
Thank you.
I was thinking when you were talking about the Harinam, how there were so many devotees. You said 100. I heard 200. I don't know.
Well, I think there was $200 at the whole 200 at the whole festival, and it was I don't know how many, so well over 100, right?
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was thinking most of those devotees live right here, or at least in this area, and how nice it would be if even once a month we did something like that. There's always Harinam regularly,
True.
but there's not a lot of devotees that go.
Yeah.
And what an impression it would make. That could be happening regularly. And I had an experience the other day where just by wearing tilak, I wasn't even wearing devotional clothing, and I realized that how if everyone just wore tilak, that sparks an interest and it makes people inquire. They were coming to me asking me, well, what is that on your forehead, And and my spiritual master used to call Alachua the sleeping giant, because there's so much potency here, so many devotees, and so much possibility. And if it became a priority for all of us, then we could really flood this whole area, literally, and just make so many more people Krishna conscious.
Thank you. It's so true that, the reason for the Vaikuntha clothing is that when people see us, they actually become purified, and Prabhupada taught us, saris, dhotis, to go out as much as we can. And Harinam it's like pure devotional service, in the sense that one of the aspects of pure devotional service is an immediate relief to material distress. So you can have so many things on your mind, but as soon as you go in Harinam, you start chanting, it's like you're in ecstasy. It's such a great medicine to take. So yes, Ekadashi, it's so true that we can just invite more people to come out. We're standing on the corner of 13th and University, and it's mostly cars going by, but people, sometimes we have people stop their car, get out, dance while the light is red, jump back in when it's green and take off, And there's students, there's always people coming by. It is very, very ecstatic. So any opportunity we have to engage in Harinam is worthwhile. And so we just pray to Radha that we can all become more dedicated to her lotus feet and dedicated to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. Tapta Kanchana Gauranga Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sute Devi Praname Hare Priye. Thank you. She will. Oh, because she never called me back, and I forgot about it. And then picked us on the bus, and she's like, "Mommy, what about the sticks?" I'm like, "I don't know. Just call her. No, you call her." She got him at the last minute. I think the bus is pulling out. She's so busy. I know. I understand. Yeah. With Krishna.com, right?